let's start off with what is new with you is hip replacement, which I'm very familiar with. So tell everyone what's going on with you.
So it's 9 days after post-surgery. So I had the operation on Saturday, the 18th of July. And the operation was really good. It went really well. My recovery has been remarkable. Like, I mean, I was walking without any aid 4 days after the operation. I think you and I obviously spoke through message. But one thing which I was, say, naively not expecting is just the sort of like the pain and discomfort which comes with the healing process. So, of course, I know that this is an abrasive operation. I know, obviously, it's not just a matter of somebody just basically cutting through soft tissue, doing a little bit of repair work. They're basically removing the whole of the hip joint and replacing it. But the most uncomfortable thing for me, really, Jose, is just sitting down. Sitting down for me is very awkward. That's why I'm sitting in a very awkward position at the moment. On the sofa, with a pad, with pillows, because the sitting down board, and I'm also in my spine, so I'm getting back, back as well. So I'm just looking forward to getting through this next few weeks of obviously therapy, massage, etc. Get breakdown started, get back, start training.
So I knew what you said because we've spoken and I can read lips of a British lad really well. But I rudely didn't introduce my co-host here, Nate Tello. Say hello to Nate.
Hey, Nick, nice.
So we have someone in common. Nate's girlfriend, which is one of my clients, she's doing your show. Yeah, which one is that?
So it was the Costa Rica that just got canceled.
Okay. So tell them what's going on with that, Nate.
Oh, for the show. Well, I'll mention first kind of a interesting story. So I know you just started promoting the Costa Rica show with Alex and Maggie. My girlfriend and I actually did that show last year.
Okay,
and
cool.
Great show. Our plan was just based on how well Maggie and Alex treated everybody, how well the show was run, was to come back and do it again this year. And the reason that show was even on the map is Jose has a friend and someone that he worked with, a guy by the name of Charlie Pearson, who won the show the year prior, so 2 years ago, and turned pro at it. So that's why it was on my radar. And so I guess, could you talk about you coming in and joining in as a promoter for that show, as well as, one of the things we realized very quickly when we were out there last year is the competition that they face by the competing league. Is it IFBB Elite Pro? And
Yes.
the, I guess, let's say repercussions that were put in place by that league to prevent any of a lot of the Costa Rican athletes of even showing up, let alone competing in that show, to just try and blacklist everybody. So I'd be curious to get your take, coming in, obviously wanting to improve business and take the show further from an already great show that Maggie and Alex were doing. Your thoughts on the way that the competitors, I guess, treat the athletes there, and your plan to deal with that.
Okay, so I'm a past IFBB professional promoter, so I put pro shows on in the past in the UK. I was also the president of the IFBB back in the UK for a number of years. That's when the IFBB and the IFBB Pro League were obviously together as an umbrella. That was many years ago. Actually, Jose competed in one of my British Grand Prix back in Manchester. I think it was the Manchester show.
Yeah.
Manchester show. So, of course, I've got quite a bit of experience when it comes to promotional work, and I've got good relationships with a lot of different companies and vendors and individuals in the industry. But, of course, I've been very connected with Maggie and Alex now probably for about 3 years, because Alex became one of my clients about 3 years ago. Just built a really good relationship up between athlete and coach, but also matured into a really good friendship. So for me, I'm always going to try and do my best to help people that are, I would say, in your circle, I guess, to to help them and better themselves with something that they're doing. It's everything that we do as people, ultimately, yes. But of course, I've also got a huge amount of passion and love for the industry. So obviously in the past, I was a promoter in the UK. So having the opportunity to join forces with Alex and Maggie and help them promote their show and come on board. And I'm certainly not taking anything away about from their hard work. And you've already started the conversation saying that, you know, you've had a really great experience the way that they treated the athletes. And ultimately, being a past athlete from an IFBB amateur and an IFBB pro, I know what goes into competing. I know the sacrifices, guys. I've been there, and I'm not somebody who's living in the past and saying, hey, you know, in my day it was like this and in my day it was like that. My point is that you have to compete and get into real condition. I don't think you have to compete at the highest level, but you have to be able to compete consistently at a really high level of condition to understand the sacrifices that you have to make in order to be a competitive athlete. And of course, I know genetics and structure play a big part. My point is there are some athletes out there which think they diet hard, and the truth is they're not. There are some athletes which over diet and over push. It's part and parcel of the process. We've all done that. It's just being naive and obviously eager to better ourselves. But I also wanted to give my ability to give back to the industry as well. I'm very, very fortunate to be doing something that I really, really love. I've been fortunate to be in different countries around so many amazing athletes. And yes, it's unfortunate the IFBB and the IFBB Pro League made the decision to obviously go in separate directions. That's not something which any of us have obviously the ability to speak about. But I feel that the IFBB, the NPC worldwide are dramatically gathering growth and development for all the right reasons throughout the whole of the world, I would say. And obviously the IFBB are feeling threatened by that, which is a real shame, because at the end of the day, it's not my right as a athlete to dictate what an athlete does. It shouldn't be a sanctioning body which makes threats to an athlete with what they can and what they can do. At the end of the day, it should always be the athlete's choice of what they feel is right for them. And that's where the maturity of the IFBB Pro League, NPC, and NPC worldwide are. They are letting people make the decision on what they want to do. If they want to compete in the IFBB, fine, that's not a problem for them. You know, that's the direction you want to go, guys, that's fine. If you want to come back into our federation in the future, and of course, you know, we will open our arms to you, because they have something very, very different. And that is what I would say stability and longevity. And they also have the titles within the whole of the worldwide that every athlete would want as far as an amateur. You know, the most pinnacle event that you can compete in is the Mr. Olympia. You will not be able to compete in the Mr. Olympia unless you become an IFBB Pro card. And the thing is, the IFBB Pro League and the NPC worldwide organization, they're not forcing athletes to do their shows. They're letting the athletes choose what shows that they compete in. And I think it's a real shame that, you know, the IFBB have been putting pressure and trying to blackmail and stop athletes attend an event or compete in an event. To me, that just goes to show they have no interest in the athlete. They have no interest in the athlete. Unfortunately, the Costa Rica we had to cancel a couple of weeks ago because cases of COVID has elevated over the last month or so. And obviously there's different protocols that you have to go through and processes to get permits. There's about 5 permits that you have to get. We have 3 permits already, but to get the other 2 permits, it's obviously another process. And what they've done is they've stopped all of that process and taking place. Now, there was a slight chance that the show could have gone ahead, but we would never have got clear clarity until about 2 weeks before the show. And there was no way that we wanted to allow the athletes to carry on competing with the intentions of them obviously doing the show and then having to say last minute, guys, I'm afraid we know we can't put the show on. We obviously spoke to IFBB Pro League, Jim Manium, obviously Tyler, Robin, spoke to them, and they understood the situation. At the end of the day, their interest really is the athletes. Of course, the international calendar has been impacted dramatically on an amateur level and a professional level because of COVID. But the federation is strong. It's going to survive. It's going to come back bigger. It's going to come back better. And at the end of the day, it's all about the athletes, guys, because if we look after the athletes and we understand the athletes' need, the industry is going to grow. The athletes are going to grow. Everything obviously just grows from strength to strength. So it's great to hear that obviously you had competed in the show and had past experiences in the past. Big congratulations to Jose there from a past winner and winning the pro card, obviously, in Costa Rica. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's currently, guys, that's where we are, obviously, on the 27th or the 28th of July. That's the current situation that we're living in.
So I want to go back to your hip. Nate and I were discussing you earlier today before the show, and talking about when you retired from competition, how your knees were giving you an issue. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you think so, but I'm convinced your knees are connected to your hips, to the injury and the need for a replacement.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Jose, is that I've always come from a very sporting background. I was a really happy kid growing up, but I was also quite a sad kid growing up. And the reason I say that is that I had severe dyslexia. So in school, I struggled really bad. Very, very hard for me to express or to do well academically because of my dyslexia. They actually didn't diagnose or realize, or actually, like dyslexia was something which wasn't talked about. There wasn't a lot of information back then. It was only 10 days before I finished secondary school, meaning I finished school for the rest of my life, that they actually said, you've got dyslexia. And so for me in school, even though I was a really happy kid, I was quite sad as well, because a lot of my friends were middle class and I was very poor class. A lot of my friends were very academically smart and I was the complete polar opposite. But what I was good at, I was fucking good at sport. I put my frustration or my disability into everything that I could do, and that was sport. So I excelled in sport at the highest level. I was an international swimmer, swam all around the world, swam for Wales, and that was from the age of about 8 to 15. So I played other multiple different sports. But when I was born, Jose, my right knee used to partially dislocate itself. It's like a birth defect. So what used to happen, that it could happen once a day, it could happen once a week, it could happen once a month. My knee joint would dislocate itself. And sometimes it would happen and I would be aware of it and I could put it back into place with very little pain. But sometimes it would happen when I'm swimming, and sometimes it happened when I was running, and your mind would never be able to stop you, so the pain was excruciating and it never got better. And of course, I spoke to my mum at a very, very, very early age, and she said, it's just growing pain. They just didn't realize the full significant issues that I had. So what happened at a very early age, my knee used to float and I had bone-to-bone contact at an early age. I actually stopped playing football, soccer, and rugby when I was about 16 to 17 because of my knee was so bad. I stopped swimming when I was 15 because I just burnt out. I swam too much. I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And then I started participating in other sports. So I was a freestyle BMX rider, surfed. I was a bloody great surfer. And then what happened is I was introduced to bodybuilding just by chance at 19. I had no interest in bodybuilding, but a friend of mine who couldn't drive wanted to watch this bodybuilding show, which I thought was a bit strange. I went to watch the show with him. And as soon as I walked in, and I was like, fuck, I want to be a bodybuilder. And that's how my bodybuilding started at 19 years of age. And then I started training and I was hyper responsive. Building muscle came very easy for me, as long as I was meticulous about my training, my nutrition, supplementation. But at 19 years of age and no internet, living in the middle of living in a tiny seaside village, literally hours and hours away from cities and bodybuilding life. It was a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes and a lot of self-learning about along the way. And I was very fortunate to build a really great physique as an amateur. I turned pro in 2002, but unfortunately, in about 1998, 1999, my knee became really, I would say it just became unstable, especially doing certain exercises. So for about 3 or 4 years, I had to do exercises that I could, as opposed to doing exercises I wanted to do. So I was no able to do squats anymore. I wasn't able to do hack squats. Had to be leg press, leg extension, lunges. Um, and then I turned pro in 2002, but at the same time, I struggled with that prep. Prep was easy as far as going through prep, but my knee was giving me a lot of problems. And then about 4 weeks after turning pro, I had laparoscopic surgery, and that's when they found out that about a fourth of my knee joint was completely missing. Now, the truth is that when I was 21, when I was 21, I went in to have knee surgery at 21 years of age. I didn't end up having the surgery because after the tests had been done, they realized there was something which was a lot more abrasive than just small cartilage tear. They knew it was much more than that, but I was already in love with my bodybuilding, and back then there was no laparoscopic surgery. It meant a big scar, big operation, and I felt, let me just carry on with my bodybuilding. So what happened is literally 6 months after turning pro, I had to make the decision to retire. And the reason being is I had won everything you could win as an amateur in the UK. I was very competitive. I really believed in myself that I could make it in the pro ranks. There was no 202 class back then. There was only the open class. And I believe within 2 to 3 years of really good training and structure, I would be able to build the muscle on my frame to be competitive in the pro ranks in the open class. But I knew my knee was never going to be able to sustain, the efforts that was needed to put that new level of muscularity and muscle and maturity onto my frame. If the 202 class was around when I turned pro, it would have been perfect, because I turned pro at like 188. I could have grown into the 202 class within 12 months very easily and been highly competitive. But it's kind of strange because the show that I turned pro in 2002, let's fast forward in 2003, that was Flex Lewis's very first show. That's when we met. And it was quite a surreal, I think it was meant to be I really believe that we were meant to meet, and things were meant to go in the direction, and we were meant to, start working together from that day forward. And that's 17 years ago. I wouldn't say I get upset anymore, but it took me a long time to emotionally heal from stepping away from being competitive on the stage, because I was 32. I was a genetic freak, and I could have turned pro at 23, 24 if I wanted to, but the reason why I didn't is because I liked a normal life as well. Yeah. I somebody who trained hard for 6 months, compete, maybe not train for 3 or 4 months, and then maybe train for a year, make improvements, step into the next class. Yeah. It wasn't that I wasn't disciplined or dedicated. I liked having balance in my life. I didn't want bodybuilding to just consume me, which a lot of people, they find that they get consumed. And, I turned pro in 2002. So it was a hard pill to swallow, because I knew there was a future, but I just knew that I couldn't do what I need to do in the gym to see those progressive changes taking place. But I sit here now in front of you, a highly acclaimed, accomplished IFBB professional who's won multiple shows. And Jose, it's always amazing, right, for me to be able to see individuals which remind me of certain phases of me being in the career in my career where I am now. Because I remember the first time I met you, and you were going to be one of the competitors against Flex, and would be talking about you, and you would be inspiring us, and it's a very surreal, cool fucking feeling, mate.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny, you retired at 32. I did my first pro show at 34.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's crazy the different paths that we have all taken. And I can understand your feeling, because you were so young. For bodybuilding, 32 is very young.
Yeah.
I competed 10 more years after 34, and I had every bit of passion towards the end as I did at the beginning, so I can imagine the frustration of not being able to perform, not by choice, but by injury.
And I don't have any regrets, because my quality of life was bad, Jose. My knee was well, it was horrendous. Like, I mean, the pain and discomfort I was going through on a day-to-day basis was not good. And I feel I probably touched 20% of my genetic potential. You know, I would, you know, I grew really well. I based my physique on symmetry and shape and condition, and I knew my body inside out. You know, I was so sensible as well. I really touched the surface of what I could have done, but at the same time, I have life experiences now which I probably never would have had in different areas of my life.
Right.
And I asked me about my hip. Do I think that my hip is related to my knee? Yes, because I think what I did for a number of years is overcompensate on my left side.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, you know, may have been very strong and very favorable to it when it came to building muscle tissue. I was hyper responsive, you know, hormonally hyper responsive, hormonally. But my joints, my bone structure, just not, you know, not where it could have been. And it's just one of those things.
So did you have a Neil Hill, a mentor, someone that you looked at maybe when you went to that first show with your friend, or someone that you saw? It could have been Dorian Yates. It could have been, you know, any one of Charles Claremont, any one of those successful British bodybuilders. There were a lot of them, you know, some that a lot of people that don't know about. Maybe was Brian Buchanan from England too?
Yeah, Brian
Was,
Buchanan.
yeah.
Yeah, Brian Buchanan. I never
Did you
saw.
have someone who was your Neil Hill, your Yoda?
Well, I never had any advice from anyone, and it wasn't because I didn't want advice. As I said, I come from a very small seaside village, which was literally in the middle of nowhere. So it literally is like a Dorian Yates' gym. It's known as the Dungeon. And if you would ever have traveled to my hometown or town village, you'd understand it was a 6.5 hour journey just to get to the airport.
Wow.
You know, it's nowhere on the coastline.
Did you live near Flex?
Me and Flex lived about 45 minutes away from each other by car. So I never had anyone as a mentor, but there were individuals that I inspired, like Labrada, you know, was my favorite all-time bodybuilder. And the reason I say that is because I could relate to his shape and his structure. You know, he was known for his symmetry. One of the most successful pros in the world at that present time, you know, won multiple pro shows. The smallest guy on stage, but presented art in every single way. So I never wanted to be like Labrada because I always wanted to be true to myself. But what it would be is I would be inspired by, you know, the young Sean Ray, who was up and coming, you know, good looking guy, shape, structure, maturing in the industry. Obviously there was, you know, the king of shape and structure, which was Flex Wheeler. But Labrada was the person that I could relate to. But I really didn't have any advice and it wasn't because I wasn't willing to learn. I think it was because the people which were around me were very, very naive. And because my physique had moved so fast forward with its ability to grow, I feel that my dyslexia forced me to be super sensitive to my own body. So I was very in tune with my body. I could sense what worked. I could feel what worked, what didn't. So, and I remember asking two individuals, they became quite good friends of mine. There was a gentleman called the name of Gary Lister. He was a NABBA professional. He'd won the NABBA Universe 3 times. He'd actually guest posed a couple of times at my show for me. And I remember sitting down with him and asking some advice. And also another friend who became a really great friend of mine, one of the most highly acclaimed, accomplished amateurs in the UK. His name was Steve Avery. He should have been a professional bodybuilder. Shape, symmetry, the guy was phenomenal. And I sat with Steve a couple times and we spoke. And bearing in mind, when we spoke, these guys never knew what my physique was like because they always guest posed for me. So they'd never seen me in the flesh before. And when they were talking to me and they were, you know, I was asking them questions and I was listening, I was like, I wouldn't do that. Because I'm thinking in my mind, nah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. You know, and it would be on multiple different topics. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that. And it's not because I knew better, because I just felt I'm not ready to do this. And then, you know, when we spoke about diets and I heard how extreme their diets were, it's like, I don't need to do that because I'm doing this and I'm getting leaner and I'm getting harder and I'm getting drier and I prove myself with my condition and my symmetry, because that's really ultimately what won all those shows for me.
Right.
And again, it wasn't because I had this arrogance about me. It's because I had enough common sense to realize I didn't need to do that. It's like, it'll be like, Jose, you will have individuals, you prep people. Some people do no cardio, they get lean. Some people got to do an hour of cardio a day. Some people diet on 500 grams of carbs. Some people are dieting on 150. So my point is that if you believe, for instance, that you're able to diet on 3,500 calories a day, and let's just say that you've got a really good balance of healthy fats, proteins, and carbs, and then all of a sudden, you know, Chris said to you, right, okay, you're going to bring your calories down to 2,000. And straight away you can think, I don't need to do that because I've been progressively making positive changes for the last month or 2 months. I'm where I need to be. You know, so my point is that you know enough to not make reckless decisions,
Right.
but having a coach can be really beneficial because it's the times where we can be irrational and make decisions that we don't need to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's happened so many times where an athlete will talk to me and I'll be like, okay, no cardio for the next 3 days. Take you out the gym for the next 4 days. I'm going to feed you up. And like, what? Like 2 weeks out from the show. No, we're going to burn out. No, I feel great. No, we're going to burn out. So you're doing the complete polar opposite to what they may think, because deep down they want to do extra cardio. They want to pull more calories. They think they have to suffer at 10 weeks out, when the truth is, if you diet correctly, unfortunately, you probably had to suffer more than most because you have to lose muscle to make weight quite often.
Right.
But if you didn't have to lose muscle, I'm sure you'll agree the process of getting in shape would have been psychologically, emotionally, and physically easier, yes?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Of course.
So I did, you know, ask some advice, but I just felt it was too extreme. So I just did my own thing. Yeah. And it turned out really good.
I always say that I got a coach more to protect myself from myself.
Right.
Because I was the kind of person that I'm like, I have to be the hardest guy in the show. That's the only way I can win. So I'd end up doing 3 hours on the step mill every day, eating 40 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
And, you know, that might work for a week or two, but I would do it for 3 months straight. And, you know, that's why I was able to make it down to lightweight when I did, and welterweight. And it worked as an amateur, making it. But as soon as I had to have real muscle and be, you know, 202 pounds or 210 pounds and compete with big guys, I needed to change that mindset quickly. And it was hard for me to come out of that, where all I got to do is do 3 months of hard cardio and eat 2 rice cakes a day. I'm good. And it didn't work that way, you know? So I needed to find someone to basically protect me. And
you and Chris had a lot of success, mate. Huge amount. You know, great team.
Yeah, he changed my whole mindset, you know, because it was unfathomable. He's like, you know, go have a couple muffins, go have some sushi, and I'm like, what? I never, you know, cheat meal wasn't even in my vocabulary, you know, back then. But he was able to, and I was able to put on significant muscle, you know, especially I was 37 years old by the time I met with him, and you know, I was able to put on 10 pounds of solid muscle from that day on, you know, at 37, after already been training my whole life. So it was very successful.
So Neil, earlier you spoke about balance and it taking you longer to turn pro because of your wanting balance of getting married, having kids, and doing different endeavors. Can you talk about your role as a coach and in coaching both amateur and pros? Because, you know, there's a different level of a Flex Lewis where there's a lot on the line, and this is his livelihood versus, say, someone like myself that I have a business, I have a girlfriend, I have other hobbies, but it's a goal of mine to turn pro. Can you talk about, I think also what you're known as a coach is your connection and your care for your clients. I think when I think of you, I think about your relationship with your clients, and that you're not a guy that just shoots off an email once a week and says, here's the plan. You really get to know them and who they are. Can you talk about your role as a coach in helping competitors, both amateur and professional, obviously be the best that they can be, push as hard as they need to push, but also finding balance and not burning out, or being able to potentially have a family or have a business outside of bodybuilding?
Okay, I'm certainly not trying to make out that I'm a perfect human being, but I unfortunately got separated from my ex-wife. We separated probably about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Legally got divorced, financially divorced maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But me and Angie, my ex-wife, still have a good relationship today. I can look at you guys and girls as I'm talking to you now and say that I was a fucking great husband and a great father, because I prioritized my family first. I did work a lot of hours because we had obviously financial obligations. We had a home, we had a car, so of course I had a car loan. I had a mortgage, not big mortgages, not big, big car loans, but enough to make sure that you have to be financially supporting obviously your responsibilities. So I worked full time when I was an amateur and a professional as a mechanic. I used to work on Range Rover and Jaguar. I never took time off work ever for prep. The only time I ever took time off for any show at any point was 2 days before the show to make sure I was able to get my meals in when I was carb loading, because I used to go through a lot of calories, a lot of carbs. So I'd be carb loading every sort of 60 to 90 minutes. I'd eat up to 12 meals a day. And it's just not possible for me to be able to be in a working environment where I'm stopping every hour and a half to eat. So I would just take 2 days off holiday pay, to concentrate on prep for the last couple of days. I also worked in a nightclub. I worked in a nightclub on a Friday night and a Saturday night as security doorman. But in the summer months, I would work up to 5 nights a week, sometimes 6 nights a week, because where I live, it's a holiday destination. So you have a lot of holiday makers down for 4 months. So I'd be working nights as well. And it was tough. And the reason why I say it was tough is because I worked from half a state until 5 o'clock, Monday to Friday. And then on a Friday night, Saturday night, I worked in the nightclub from 9 p.m. until 3 a.m. in the morning. And then in the weekday, I would also work anywhere between 2 and 4 extra nights in the summer months, which are 4 months of the year. I only trained ever 4 days a week. I never trained more than 4 days a week ever when I was an amateur and a professional. My training split was back and biceps, chest and triceps, day off, shoulders and calves, and then thighs and hamstrings together on a Friday, Saturday, and Sundays off. And for me, I loved my time in the gym, but I loved my family and my time with my partner and my boys more, which meant that I'd go to the gym and train because it gave me a sense of freedom and allowing to maybe find identity just for myself, not so that everybody looks at me and says, hey, he's a bodybuilder. I didn't need that kind of vanity. I did it purely for myself. Social media wasn't there then, so it was not all about your selfies and your little videos that we see mostly today. And I would get back, and I wanted to get back home, bath the boys, feed the boys before bed. Weekends to me was the highlight for me because it meant that I didn't work in the daytime on a Saturday. I didn't work on a Sunday daytime. So of course I had all this daytime, to be with my boys and my wife. And we did everything. I can remember doing the British Grand Prix. It was my only pro show. And I suffered my ass for this show. I mean, talk about suffered for this show. And the only reason I suffered so much is because I turned pro 12 weeks before the show. My pro show was 12 weeks later. Yeah. And instead of me just bringing my weight up and then allow myself just to refuel myself for maybe 6 to 8 weeks and then slowly come down, I maintained my condition about 3 or 4 pounds away from my contest condition for 12 weeks. So, and it was just down to naivety, but that's another subject. But my point is we would always do things. We would be out walking, we would be out going to play parks, because if I was home, not doing anything, sitting on a couch, oh, I'm tired. Everyone's fucking tired when they're dieting. It's part and parcel of the process. But for me, I had to be busy because it meant that I could take my mind off food. because otherwise, you know, it's like when your fat levels get to a certain point, you're counting the minutes for mealtime. So if I'm active and I'm busy and I'm doing things with my family, it's a complete distraction for me. You know, so, you know, am I burning more calories going for a walk with the kids or playing with the kids? Yeah. But I'll just put an extra meal in. I'll put extra calories in. I was intelligent enough to know that I could do all of the family things that I would do in the off season as I would pre-contest time. Everything. There was nothing I wouldn't do. I would just make sure I added extra calories if I felt I was creating too much of a deficit. Um, so there was nothing that I wouldn't do. My priority was the boys, and I wasn't programmed that way. It was that's the life that I personally wanted, and also I didn't want to be around bodybuilding, and I didn't want to think about bodybuilding come contest time. And the reason I say that is because you overthinking and over analyzing is not going to help you. You are always going to be a stronger athlete when it comes to physical and mental and the outside shell of your physique when you're mentally in a really good place. And that tends to be when we just have no stress around us. So for me, I only had to think about mealtime when my alarm went off. I only have to think about training when I'm in the gym. Why would I think about and fantasize about my workout 3-4 hours before my workout when I'm mentally indirectly draining myself? Let me flick that switch when I walk into that gym. I flick the switch and now I'm a machine. My attitude is to obviously train intelligent and smart, do what I need to do, get out of there, get my post nutrition supplementation into me, and allow obviously reconnective growth and obviously switch on mTOR protein synthesis and allow the healing process to take place, and then get home because now I've got therapy around my kids and I can enjoy my family. So for me, I was really, really good at being able to switch on when I need to and switch off. And the only reason I think that I was able to do that is I started training when I was 19, and it became like quite a bit of an obsession for about 2 or 3 years where everything revolved about meal, training, get to the gym. And I can remember one day thinking, you're a bit of an old sad bastard. You're like 22, 23 years of age, and all you think about is bodybuilding. And I remember thinking, like, this isn't the life I want. So what I did is I created this environment to treat my bodybuilding, whether I was an amateur or a professional, as a hobby. It's my hobby, because if it becomes a hobby again, I'm always going to be in love with it. But then I can also prioritize other areas of my life. And that's something I've always instilled into my athletes, every single one of them, every single one of my athletes and clients. It doesn't matter what type of client it is, whether it's a transformation client, whether it's a corporate businessman. I'm very, very fortunate that I work with some royal family members from different countries around the world. And then obviously you've got the celebrity world, and then you've obviously got the bodybuilding world. They're all very, very polar opposites. But my philosophy is the same. I do understand that different individuals have different responsibilities. And I get that, guys. You know, sometimes I don't prioritize enough time for me because I put my time into my athletes. So yes, I'm guilty of that. But believe you me, I still have enough time for me. The time that I find that I don't have enough time for me, it's just when the major shows are on, because it really is all about the athletes. Jose, you know this as well as I do. There's so much at stake. You know, there is so much at stake. You know, like there is no financial benefit for me if an athlete does well. You might say, yes, it does. It's like, no, well, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, Flex Lewis goes on this year and does really well in the Olympia, like really well in the Olympia. Is this going to put his stakes up in the industry? Yes. I don't want to be responsible for not helping him be at a better level of financial security. But I will never be willing to help him get to that position if it was going to jeopardize his health and long-term happiness. I have no interest, guys. Right. You win all the titles in the world, but if you don't have longevity and happiness and health long-term, we've all seen it. How many great bodybuilders that we've seen over the years, you look at them now, forget about the fact that they're now no longer athletes, but we've heard a lot of sad stories of our athletes who've lost themselves because they consumed themselves with bodybuilding, bankrupt, no money, lost everything, addiction. I don't want to be a part of that. So I try my best to instill balance and make sure that athletes understand that there are some things in life which are just more important, but you can have a really good blend of everything as long as you look wisely and you're patient. Because to be a successful athlete long term, it takes patience. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. So Neil, I want to ask you a question and cover this topic because I would be a fool not to bring it up, and a lot of people want to know. You don't have to get into too much detail, but there was a well-publicized split between you and William, and we don't need to rehash exactly this and that and what he said, she said. It happened. It was unfortunate. How did things get so out of control so fast? It was like one day everything was fine. The next day, there's videos about a shithole. And, that's the first part of the question. How did that get out of control so fast? The second part is, has he improved since he stopped working with you?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer that question, but then I'm going to let you answer another question because I will sit on the fence on this. I was very saddened with the situation with me and William, because I can look at you now. If anyone took the time to listen and watch my interview, that I did a very full interview with Nick Power and Strength about a week after the episode with me and William, you will have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. When William made that statement on his Instagram, it was a very emotional William Bonac. And
it's very one-sided.
Well, it's not even just the fact that it was one-sided. It's the fact that I don't really want to talk about the situation because there's a lot of moving parts which have to be out you to have an explanation. Do you understand? Yes.
Right. Yep.
But what I am saying to you is that William has two personalities, maybe three personalities. William can be a very emotional, unstable individual. You know, he's got, I would say, mental health issues, but I don't mean that in a negative way. Most people got mental health issues.
Right.
He's got maybe a split personality. When William is rational, okay, a rational individual, William will think in a certain way. When William is not irrational, William is the complete polar opposite. And I know that, you know, we can all have our good days and bad days, but William is one of these people that if he doesn't like something or he's put in a position, he's going to act a number of different ways. We've seen it in past press conferences, guys, all right? Like, you know, in past conferences, we've seen, you know, at the Olympia, for instance, to just give you an idea, the first Olympia that me and William did together, okay, he was looking great. I was supposed to pick up William from the airport at our first Olympia in Vegas. But what happened, me and Flex were already in Vegas the day before. I promised William was going to pick him up from the airport. Everything's cool, man. Everything's perfect. Everything is like perfectly smooth. But I couldn't get to the airport in time because I was on a photo shoot and video shoot with BSM, which I knew I was doing that day. And it ran over. So I had obligations to my sponsors. I could not get to the airport. So what happened is I messaged William, but I also messaged somebody else, which was flying on the plane at the same time, to say, listen, William, listen, mate, I'm stuck on set. I can't get to the airport, mate. Do me a favor. Jump in a taxi. I'll meet you at the hotel. Also, listen to this, Jose. I already bought all of his food that he needed for the whole 5 days in Vegas that morning. Okay, I got him a rice cooker. I got him his weighing scales to weigh his body weight, his food, all of his food, everything for 5 days. It was at the hotel ready for him. I've already given it to reception, okay? Because I wasn't at the airport, he didn't speak to me for 2 days. Wouldn't speak to me for 2 days because I wasn't at the airport. Wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't answer my texts. Very volatile because he was pissed because I wasn't at the airport for him. I had every intentions of being there, but wasn't able to get there because of my obligation with BSN. It had nothing to do with, it was just an unfortunate situation. But what happened is the situation which arose from that was just, you can't put any logical explanation on it. And it was very similar to the explanation with me and William in this particular time. There was a couple of things which had, happened innocently, or whatever you want to call it, where William had thought something which was not true. It wasn't true. And we had spoken, and we had good conversations. But in William's mind, it would still be something on his mind. And it's just that I don't know, because the thing is, I had so much love and best interest of William. He said that I was taking 40% of his prize money. No, I wasn't taking 40% of his prize money and his bonus. No, I wasn't taking his bonus. What happened is when I started working with William, he had no sponsors. He was living in a car. I actually flew to Amsterdam and helped William move
I knew all this, Neil, because I don't know what year it was, maybe 2014, he and I guest posed in Trinidad together.
Right.
And while we were there, he had told me Neil's working out a deal for me. I'm like, wow, that is awesome. Not only is he helping you, but he's like, I remember thinking like, he's like a manager. He's like managing his finances, like getting sponsorships, getting him work. I was blown away that, you were even doing that. It was that company ASM or what?
It was basically all the sponsors that he's ever had. To my knowledge, even today, I've done all his contracts for him. Okay. Right. But I can say this to you now, Jose, okay? I have never taken from William. I've never stolen from William. Did William pay me for my services? Yes. There was many times that William wanted to give me extra money. No, William, I don't want money. Every time he went to pay me, I was like, use this for your, use this, for your house. Because I saw how he was living. Yeah. And the thing, it's like, when I met William, as I said, this is a long story.
Right.
What I'm upset about is the fact that if he would have went onto any public forum and told the truth, I would have been okay with it, because there's nothing that I have to be embarrassed or feel bad about, because I know that I've done really well. I've always had William's best interest at heart. I've never fucked him over with money. I've never been respectful. If William was in a different mood on a different day, what happened with me and William that day probably wouldn't have happened. Do you understand? Yeah. And
the thing is, it seemed like almost manic behavior of him videoing his house, and it was a little odd the way the whole thing went down. Most people would just cut ties and call it a day. Mm-hmm. That was my question, was why it blew up so badly.
And then let me just go back to something a minute. And then what happened is that I saw William at the Arnolds. And what happened, he did an interview with Dave Colombo maybe a few weeks before the Arnolds this year. And he said something about me again, which was completely fucking untrue again. And I was really annoyed and upset by this.
So you don't like to dress in women's clothing?
Only on a Saturday night, mate.
Okay, all right. So he was right about that one. Go on.
So what happened is that, William actually came to me when I was having breakfast, and he came up to me to shake my hand and everything. And I didn't want to shake his hand because I was upset with what I just saw. And I'm somebody that if I'm not happy about something, I'm gonna confront them. But I would do it in a professional manner, and I'll do it away from public eye, because I don't think that this, there are certain things that you speak about which don't need to be public. All right. So what happened is I said to him, "Can we have a word a minute?" And he said, "Yeah, no problem." So we walked away from the restaurant area and walked by the bar area, and then we started talking. And what I thought was going to be a good conversation just ended up frustrating me even more. And the reason being is because William never took responsibility for anything that he had done. And he brought up this one thing again of something which innocently happened in the past, where he did a guest appearance for the promoter in, you went the Loader Cup. Yes, Stefan? Yeah. Great, amazing event. And what happened? You and I, in fact, you and I did a seminar together, correct?
Yeah.
So what happened is we did a seminar together, and I also maybe 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 different people as well. So I got paid for that. I didn't get to go there. I got paid to do the seminar and train these people. William got paid for the guest appearance. Well, the promoter gave me my money, okay? And I can't remember whether he gave me William's money at the time as well. Because listen, we're going back, what, 6 years, possibly 5, 6 years?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, maybe longer, Jose.
yeah.
That I know that there was a discrepancy with William's money. Okay, so
So
what happened?
Neil, let me interrupt you. I didn't get paid either.
Okay, all right, you didn't get paid. Okay, so what
He never
happened?
paid me for my appearance. All I got paid for was training people.
Okay, were you supposed to be paid for your appearance?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Well, this is very funny because this is the first time you and I have spoken about this now, correct? On
yeah,
public.
yeah.
In fact,
100%.
so what happened is that William said to me, "Hey, coach, have you got my money?" And I was like, "Money, mate? Yeah, for the guest appearance." No, I don't think so, mate.
You're not
Um,
the promoter.
yeah, let me just. I said, "No, I don't think so." Yeah, yeah. He told you he gave you money. I said, "Mate, I don't know." I said, "He gave me an envelope, and he mentioned your name." I said, "But I don't remember him giving me money. I can tell you now, as I'm looking at you, this guy did not give me money to give to William. All right. So when I explained to William, like, no, I don't think he gave me money, or yes, or whatever, he said, okay, no problem. He said, let me speak to him. So William spoke to the promoter. All right. I don't know what was said because this may have happened later on in a day or a week or two. The conversation never ever happened again with me and William. William never came back to me to say, hey, he said he's given you this, nothing happened. Nothing was said. All I remember is me and William talking, and it was a good conversation. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then what happened is then when William did this interview, maybe 2 weeks before the Arnold this year, he brought up about something that happened, and I had stolen his guest posing money. I was like, what? And Dave was saying, so what? You're saying that Neil was organizing these guest poses for you, and he was stealing your money, taking your money? Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I'd never done that. I'd never done anything like that before. And also there was so much that I'd given thousands of pounds to William in certain ways that he doesn't even know. Yeah. I bought for him multiple times, VIP tickets for the Olympia, for his family. Yeah. He had one ticket, one for his girlfriend or one for his wife. I always bought the other tickets. Robin Chang knows that. I bought these for him. I gave it to him as a gift. He did, it's for me. I didn't need to do that. So why would I steal $500 off him or $1,000 for a guest appearance when I've paid thousands and thousands of dollars in other ways towards him? And now you've just said to me, Neil, I was supposed to be paid, from this guest appearance. I never had the money. Well, this sounds very similar to William's situation. Yeah,
there's no question. The guy's a snake. We guest posed twice, Saturday and Sunday. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we were supposed to get paid handsomely. And all I got was about $800 for training 8 people.
Well, that sounds to me like there you go. It sounds to me that William didn't get paid. The guy, whether he made an mistake or not, and I got blamed.
Of course.
The thing is, Jose, I would have been happy to give William my money to give him to him. It's okay. It's not a problem for me. But me and William never argued. We never fought out. There was no ill feeling between me and William. This happened like 6, 7, 8 years ago, and he brings it up on Dave Columbus' show this year, 2 weeks before, and directly was accusing me of stealing the money, and it was the same event as you. So it means like I didn't. So this is actually pretty sad. So let me ask you a question. Do you think that William Bonac is better since we've broken away from working together or not? Honestly.
Not even close. And that's why I asked. Listen, I love William. I've had nothing but great experiences with him, and always nice to me. And I think he's a phenomenal bodybuilder, obviously. I think his physique has gone downhill. I thought maybe he had a knee injury, but it seems that both legs have come down. His leg size in general has come down, and like me, he's very short. He can't afford to lose size in his legs, or his waist looks a little bigger. Things just aren't flowing as well. He's obviously he deserved to be top 3 at last year's Olympia. I thought Hadi beat him. I don't think he's gotten better at all since. No.
I mean, I know it's hard for me to talk, is because there's so much emotional attachment to William.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, William is a very complex individual. He's a very, very complex individual. And when William is William, man, I love him. I just love my time with him. He's a very simple individual. He's not driven by he's not an egotistic person. But when
Let me answer this quickly. If you squash this, would you be willing to work with him again to go head to head with Flex?
I don't think that this would ever be squashed. And the reason why I say that, Jose, is because I know William inside. Well, no, I'm not saying no, William inside out. There's been so many times where we've had some amazing experiences together, and there's been some times where it's been frustrating, and it's been frustrating because of his emotional instability.
Yeah.
But I say that in a very loving, kind way. Does that make sense? Yes. William is not the type of person to apologize. So unless he sits down and says to me and actually means it, listen, I'm sorry for what I did and what I said, it was wrong.
Yeah.
Then how can I possibly, sit down and even think about, working with him again together? What I will say to you, when me and William were working together as athlete and coach, and if William and me were to ever work together in the future as athlete and coach, I am telling you now, I would prep him to beat every single athlete in the IFBB Pro League. I would not hold anything back to help me. At the same time, I would put the same efforts into Flex and the same efforts into you.
Yeah, yeah.
I can take somebody's future. What I can do is give the very best support, advice, knowledge, and love, and want the best for them. And then after that, it's down to how they hold themselves, how they conduct themselves, and what the judges want on that given day. We all know that not everybody peaks, but I would say that if you look at the success, well, let's look at it like this. I think that the level of maturity and progression that William made in his physique when we were working together was pretty extreme. There was quite a few shows that I felt that he was dramatically overlooked on. I felt there was many shows that he should have placed better on. That was also very, upsetting, because it was really hard for me to see William upset with his position when he believed and I felt that he should have been placed better. At the end of the day, I know that it's a subjective sport, and I know that people like different things. People like different things, and we see different things. But William hasn't had it easy, mate. He hasn't had an easy life, and he hasn't had an easy pro life as well. As I said, there's been shows where I felt that he should have done better.
We've all had those shows, though.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
It's part of the game.
And he's also had a lot of success.
Right. Tons.
So for me, in order for me and William to ever work together again, we'd have to build a sense of respect. And that starts with, apologies. It doesn't have to be a public apology, but apologize because what you did was wrong. Yeah. And if he told the truth, he'd have nothing to apologize about. But he didn't tell the truth, and he slandered my name. And I got so much bad hate mail from individuals, from William's outburst, from people that I have no idea who they are, because what they did is they listened to an emotional outburst that William did, and then it's extracted that was what it was. Yeah. And as I said, it's a shame. I do care about William. I love him very, very much. I think that his wife to be, Sue, is a beautiful girl. She's really good for William. Together, they're a really good couple. They got a beautiful family. So it's really nice. He's got 2 boys. I haven't seen the youngest baby. I've obviously seen the oldest son, Joshua, and obviously his little girl, Abigail, but I haven't seen his new son. And it's nice for me to see him progress in the industry, but I don't think William's come anywhere near to what he was. When he competed last year at the Olympia, he looked small, he looked flat, he looked lifeless. He was not in better condition. He was in shape, yeah, but he had no pop, he had no fullness, he just looked lifeless. I was going to
say that. He has certain genetic traits that you can't coach. His muscle separation, his muscle quality, even flat and out of shape, he has things that other people just don't have, which is deep muscle separation. And, he just looks different than everyone else. But it was clear, and you could see he was not the best version of himself, and that he was clearly a smaller version of himself. And, a lot of that you could attribute to someone viewing you multiple times a week saying, no, you got to eat. You got to keep, cut the cardio, get more rest, whatever it is. It was a visible thing that pretty much everyone he was still good enough to be where he was, but he wasn't at his best.
No. And then this year's Arnold's, he rightfully won the Arnold's, very rightfully so.
Yeah.
But still, 90% of what William can be, and again, I say all of these things in a very positive way. There's no bitterness. There's no I would love to see William win the Mr. Olympia. Do you know why? Because if you have a winning Olympian physique, then it doesn't matter about anything else around. That's the physique which should win on the day.
Right.
William has in the past had an Olympian winning physique. He could make good improvements from obviously, stepping off stage in March is Arnold this year. And then competing obviously in December. He's got a good number of months to make improvements. And I hope he does, because I do want to see the best William Bonac on stage. In a way, as I want to see the best Flex Lewis on stage, or the best Big Ramy, because even though we may have interests of love, support, friendship, coach, or whatever in our relationship with who we are helping, at the same time, if you're true to bodybuilding, you're always going to want the best athlete to win, and it doesn't have to be your athlete. It should be the athlete which is the best on the day, and the second best, and the third best.
Right.
I wish William all the very best at this year's Olympia. He is making improvements in his fullness, in 2020 compared to 2019, but there's still a lot of improvement, I feel, for William to make in order to be at his past best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hit two more topics real quick. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but Nate has a question about, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so kind of based off that, my takeaway from the whole William thing was that you were managing him. And I think that got lost in the madness of the average person that's watching a Nick Strength and Power that doesn't understand the industry, saw it as you were his prep coach, and for that, according to William, you took 40%. But when I've watched your explanation of it, that you were bringing him sponsorship deals, taking 20% of the show winnings from those sponsorships, not the monthly fees, all that stuff. Can you talk about how many athletes are you doing that for? Because that's a newer thing, as Jose had said when he spoke to William, and William was telling him, Neil is getting me a sponsorship. Jose is saying well, that's pretty crazy. You don't have a lot of prep coaches doing that. So how many athletes do you manage at this point?
So it's with William, it's very different, because when I started working with William, as I said, this is a long story, guys.
Yeah.
William had no sponsor. He had no financial aid. He wasn't in a position to be able to afford to pay me for prep. So I said, listen, I know what I'll do, William. I'll take 20% of your prize money, and I'll take 20% of your bonus money from a sponsor. And he said, but I don't have a sponsor. I said, I'll get you a sponsor. So what happened for the first 2 or 3 years, so I went out and got him sponsors. And now guys might say, well, you only did that because you had a hidden agenda. No, I did that. It offered him ability to work with me where he felt comfortable, and it was something that he was able to do. Also, remember, for the first couple of years, guys, I funded most of our expenses. I paid out of my own pocket for us to travel to Brazil to compete in the Arnold's. It cost me about $12,000. You don't know these things. You have no idea. So on paper, you might think 20%. How long did it take to win prize money? For the first 2 to 3 years, I definitely lost money. I lost more because I always paid my own travel and expenses as well. Remember, there was never a time where William paid for my flights, my accommodation, my food, my hotel, my taxi. I paid for all the time. But what happened is that I got him sponsors. So what happened is I negotiated a monthly salary for him, which I never touched. That was always William's. Okay. I negotiated his monthly supplement protocol. I negotiated his daily fee that he would be paid for his expenses by his sponsors to cover for his hotel, his food, etc. Again, I don't take any of that. That's his. But what I would do is that I would build a bonus structure into the sponsorship package so that if he was to place maybe in the top 3, he would get a bonus for his placing. So if, for instance, he got $10,000 bonus for winning the show, I would get $2,000 from that 10,000. If he won $10,000 in prize money, I would get 20% of that prize money, which meant that I would get, another 2,000. So if William won $10,000 in prize money, $10,000 in bonus money, I would get $4,000. Out of that $4,000, I've got to pay for my flights, my accommodation, my food, my taxis, and all of the time that I put into that athlete for weeks and days and months just to see them step on stage. And there was a lot of times that my expenses over that period of time were always more than what I was receiving in prize money or bonus money. And there was a lot of shows where William won nothing. So my point is, people don't think of it like that. Now, that was the deal that me and William had for about 3 years. What happened after about 3 years, William started to elevate himself, where he started, winning more prize money. And that was really obviously good for him. And you might say it was good for you, Neil. It wasn't a financial interest, guys. It didn't motivate me. Seeing William progress was my interest. And Jose, you've seen what I'm like with my athletes, so you know where my passion is. You don't see me counting money. I see me from the sidelines, excited for my athletes, not about the financial gain.
When you guys started that arrangement, he wasn't making 300, 250,000 in a competition, He
had nothing. He wasn't. So my point is that I got sponsors, I got him the bonuses, and everything was perfect. After about 3 years, William said to me, "Hey, coach," and it was really nice conversation. "Coach, do you think that it's okay if I don't give you the 20% bonus?" He said, "Because I'm starting to win some money, and I'm obviously wanting to save for a house, and I can use that." I said, "William, you don't have to explain yourself to me. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You keep the money. It's fine. No problems." So he kept the bonus money. Everything was fine. I can remember us doing a show in where was it? There was a couple of times that William had spoken to me about wanting to give his training partner, Kendrick. Kendrick and William are a great team. They're an awesome team. Wanted to give his training partner money. And I said to him, "Listen, I tell you what, just give him 5 or 10% of my money. It's fine." No, coach. "William, it's fine. It's not. No, coach. It's okay. William, it's fine. Take it. It's not a problem for me." Now, did William ever do that? No. But it would never have been an issue for me. And if you ever was to speak to William at any time and say, "William, let me ask you a question here. I know you were paying Neil. How many times did you have to ask Neil for the invoice for you to pay him?" He would have probably said, "I probably have to ask him anywhere between 3 and 6, 7 times consistently. Neil, send me the invoice. I got to pay you." Because every time that he went to pay me from the whole period of time us working together, I always said to him, "William, keep the money. Let's leave it at the moment. Don't worry. No, coach, I've got to pay you." And he'd be chasing me in a nice way. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there was never a time he'd say, "Okay, coach, I got to pay you. Send me an invoice." I'd send him send me the invoice. I'll pay you. No, he would always be chasing me. "Coach, please, you've got to send it to me because I've got to put my tax return in and I've got to do this. Otherwise, it's going to be awkward," because it wasn't my financial interest. Now, what happened as well, guys, in me and William separated in, what was it? 1919. Yeah, sorry,
2019.
What he didn't bring up, only maybe 2 months before this, we renegotiate the contract where William was only going to be paying me 10% of the prize money.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So he didn't bring that up at any time. So remember, at one point, he was paying me 20% of the bonus money, 20% of the prize money. 3 years later, he was paying me 20% of his prize money. Fast forward to 2019, 10% of the prize money. And then he went on to air on public that he was paying me 40% of his prize money plus his bonuses, which wasn't true in any way whatsoever. And I know that William, if he was rational when he was thinking, he wouldn't have been saying those things. But that's my point, is that when William is rational, it's okay. But when he's not irrational, and the reason I don't want to talk about this anymore is because this whole subject sounds like I'm being negative towards William, and
No,
it's not.
no.
I care about him. Um, I really hope that he has an amazing future in the industry. He stays healthy and happy. There's a lot that has to be done to rebuild any form of relationship between me and him, but that's only going to start with us sitting down and having an apology. Because when we spoke in March, I said to him at the end of the conversation, I said, you know what? I said, I found this, and I was feeling so frustrated. I said, you know what? I feel this whole conversation so frustrating. And he said, why? I said, you don't have responsibility for anything. I said, anything. And he said, well, without respect, there is no friendship. I said, I don't want to be your friend, William. I said, I don't even know why you would say that. I said, what? I said, what have I done so wrong which makes you feel that I've done something to wrong you? And that's when he brought up about the situation on not being paid by the promoter back in that promotion. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, that happened like 6, 7, 8 years ago. He said, we spoke about that. He said, yeah, but you took my money. I said, I didn't take your money, William. I said, I swear to you, I never took your money. I said, I know that the guy spoke to me about your money and my money, etc. I said, but I never took your money. I said, I never took your money. I said, and we spoke about that. I said, so why are you throwing that at me now, 6, 7, 8 years later? Why did you throw that out there and claim that I was stealing behind your back? And now I'm talking to you now, Jose, like 6, 7, 8 years after this event, and you're telling me, Neil, that I didn't pay me my guest appearance fee. Well, there you go.
Absolutely didn't.
Fucking William, and I got blamed for it.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that happening. All right, let's move on quick. I want to get your opinion on the Tampa Pro. Do you have anyone in the show? And well, how do you think it's going to go with the new 212 with George Peterson in there and some of the other guys?
I love I love the Tampa Pro. It's one of my most personal shows in the industry. It was the very first pro show that Flex Lewis competed in, so it's very, very personal to me. It was my first experience to certain individuals within the IFBB Pro League. So, for instance, I was introduced to Tim Gardner and also Steve Weinberger. Steve was the head judge at that show, and obviously was the promoter. They had no idea who I was. All they knew is that I had a relationship. I was a coach to Flex Lewis, and I was over from the UK with him, supporting him and coaching him for the event. And I can always remember Steve and Tim making massive positive impressions on me at that event, because I felt a little bit intimidated, being in in a different environment to what I'm used to. And I can always remember Steve just making a massive impression on me, all for the best. And the same as Tim. And ever since that event, they've always been like just really good individuals. And I see what they do for the industry. And obviously they're both promoters. It's very hard for Steve because ultimately he wants to be in a relatable environment with the athletes. But at the same time, he's in a very awkward position because he's a judge. And unfortunately, athletes don't want to know the truth. So it's very hard for athletes to understand that, when you have a friendship or when you have respect for a judge, you have to understand the decisions and what you hear from that person. The truth is they do have your best interest at heart. You just have to accept and work harder and make those improvements. And of course, Steve had gone on to, to be one of the best promoters in the world from amateur events and obviously the world-known New York Pro. And then obviously you've seen what Tim's done as far as building, such an amazing reputation now all around the world, obviously, as well with obviously his fellow partner within the Winter Strength.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the event. I don't know the big field of athletes which are in it. I do see Hunter making an extremely impressive pro debut. He's looking exceptional. I think what he's done with his physique since turning pro is vastly improved. As I already said at the beginning, his father, Labrada, one of my favorite all-time bodybuilders. I have one athlete competing in the men's physique division. It's his first ever show as a pro. Looks extremely extremely impressive. But like everything else, it's going to be a big class. I think there's over 40 athletes in that pro division alone. But he's going to do very, very well. You know, if he gets looked at and he gets compared, he'll do very, very well. But as far as all the other athletes, naively, I don't know who's competing because selfishly, I've been trying to concentrate on my rehab of getting better since hip replacement rather than what's really going on in the world of bodybuilding. And guys, I'm sorry if it sounds selfish. Just a little bit more time into me and my rehab than what's been going on outside, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. But it would be a nice distraction for you to be reading up on these guys.
Well, I'll be watching it because it's obviously going to be live fed.
Yeah.
So it's going to be live fed. And until I see the full listing of all the athletes, I think it's only then that, you know, that I'll put my thoughts together. And the thing is as well, Jose, even though I'm very much in the industry, I'm not always very good with names. I'm good with faces and I'm good with recognizing physiques.
Yeah.
You know, I could look at that lineup and within seconds I would be able to, you know, place in my subconscious mind where I think the top 6 are going to be, and possibly from the first, you know, maybe the first round of call outs, I would probably say first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. Now that's not what the judges may go for, but that's what I would see. So one thing which is great about the Tampa Pro is that it always brings the level of competitiveness where there's not just one person who's always going to be the standout athlete. Okay, last year was a little bit different because obviously, Dexter indirectly had his name on that title. You know, something terrible would have had to happen for him to lose that title.
Yeah.
Luke Sandel definitely pushed in. That was probably the best that Luke's ever been in a show, to be honest with you. Yeah. Luke looked a bit soft in the morning, definitely got harder and drier in the evening, brought a better package. And that's what I want to remember Luke from, is for that look at Tampa, because it was a very competitive impression. And he brought a really good look to the stage. And of course, Dexter looked great as well. So I think that I need to see the faces and I need to see the comparisons. But as always, guys, all you athletes out there, I wish you all the very best. Bring on those trophies, stay positive, don't overcomplicate things the last few days, and enjoy.
Yeah, there's one guy that Nate is a huge fan of, and he keeps sending me pictures of him.
No, it's the other way around.
He thinks he's going to beat George in the 212. A guy by the name of Dietrich Bo Lewis. He's hung like a brontosaurus, and Nate keeps sending me pictures of him, and I'm like, I think it throws off his symmetry, but Nate just happens to love him. How do you think he's going to do?
You know, it's funny you say that because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know exactly who. And this is the ironic thing about the industry, right? Why that there can be one thing about an individual that everybody recognizes, but also doesn't talk about. So what happened?
I talk about it.
So I saw this guy compete at last year's Tampa. I think it was last year's Tampa, and I can remember thinking like, "What the fuck is going on here?" You know, like looks like, you know, there's something going to take place here, pole dancing competition or something like that. I thought all the bikini chicks were going to jump on stage at the same time. Now, one constructive criticism about that young gentleman that I saw was that he really needed to work on his presentation. His posing needed a lot of work, but his physique was definitely impressive. And I online and what he's been posting, and to me, he's looked like he's made major improvements. But one thing I think he needs to make an improvement. I think he needs to change the shape of his posing outfit, definitely, because that's not helping him at all, man. He needs to change.
They're almost like stripper trunks.
Yeah, it doesn't look right, mate. So even if he is hung like a donkey, right, he still wear a pair of proper posing trunks because it's only going to improve his shape and symmetry.
Right.
That's my opinion, but
he can fix that.
But yeah, he can fix that. But I hope he's improved his posing because he is dense and he is thick and he is complete, and that like he reminds me of another William Bonac, thick muscle man. And we had a conversation for about a few minutes after the show and made a good impression, you know, with his energy, with me. Really, really nice guy.
Quickly, what about Hunter Labrada? Are you impressed? I think he's like a gigantic Flex Lewis. I keep saying it. Very similar structure and legs and.
Yeah, I think what Hunter's done with his physique, seriously, guys, from winning his pro card, when he won his pro card, did I think it was deserved? Yeah, but I just felt that there was still so much. I just felt that his physique was just still lacking a lot of like hardness and refinement and density to his physique.
Yeah.
You know, it still looked like, you know, in a field which would have been stronger, he would have struggled to win that pro card because his condition wasn't what we would expect an overall winner to be. Does that make sense? Shape and structure was there, but still you could see that it needed maturity.
Yeah.
But what he has done, he's worked really hard since winning his pro card, obviously in Miami.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his dad. I like his shape and structure. I think that Hunter is gonna definitely be a future very competitive A-listing pro. I'm not going to say that it's going to be this year. I do think that, you know, he's still going to be a work in progress over the next 2 or 3 years. But I'm talking about somebody who has the potential to win major titles, don't forget. Do I think that he could win this weekend? Yes.
I do.
But I definitely think that he could win this weekend, definitely. I definitely think that he still needs to get that little bit more refinement and detail in certain areas. Yeah. And maybe it won't happen for this show, or maybe it won't happen this year. But this is something which is like everything else. It's a work in progress. He's only going to get better. Just keep that, you know, keep that straight shape. Couldn't have a better mentor with his father. His father obviously was all about shape, symmetry, condition, presentation. And there's no way that his father would allow him to negatively impact his shape and structure. Right. Hunter doesn't have to put a lot more muscle on to compete at the highest level. He's got to keep working upon his condition. I think it would be an amazing story to see Hunter win his IFBB Pro card. But I also think there are going to be some other athletes there which potentially are going to be challenging for that title. And at the end of the day, as long as you do your best, even if you miss your peak, as long as you do your best, and the best athlete wins on the day of the show. And that's one thing another thing that about Tampa, I've always seen really good consistency with judging. You know, there I've been there, I've seen the classes. So yeah, they're going to be doing a great job, and my eyes will be on that live stream. Yeah. So Tim, even though I won't be there, my friend, I apologize. It's the first year I've missed your show for a few years. I actually put a post up about the Tampa Pro today, and it's funny that we're talking about it. I put it up on my is my main post. To all the athletes, Tim and all the team, I wish you all the very, very best.
Awesome. All right, Neil, I really appreciate you coming on, and I know you're really busy with the rehab, sitting on your ass there, but thank you so much for coming on and opening up to us. It was very good talking to you, and we will be in touch. Maybe we'll have you on again, see how your rehab's doing.
I appreciate it. And guys, I appreciate obviously both of you gentlemen taking the time. This is not a comfortable position for me. I'm more comfortable when I'm moving, because sitting down is the worst thing I can do. I can't get comfortable. And, you know, I walked just over a mile 4 days after the operation with no stick. And I was fine. I did a 10-kilometer bike ride on my
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right here. So I did 10 kilometers on that constantly, 3 days after the operation. I'm better when I'm moving, but when I'm sitting down, that's pain and discomfort.
When you do the next one, have them do an anterior approach.
Well, I'm going to be interested.
Sitting will be easier.
See what it looks like when I get the stitches out in the wound. I can't show what it looks like because it's all, you know, it's all completely covered. Yeah, so I'll see what this looks like on Friday. And we'll go from there, mate. But I appreciate you obviously giving me your wise words of advice, because I know that's advice. And good luck to both of you, gentlemen, with everything you do. And hopefully I see you guys later on the year in Vegas.
For sure. Thank you so much. I'm going to pick up my wife at the hospital. She's just getting surgery. So I got to fly.
Okay, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you so much, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.